All right, good evening and welcome to the March 5th special meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation, the second of several budget review meetings. Before we start this evening, I will remind anyone from the public who might be listening this evening that there is no public commentary as we go through these meetings. Any and all public commentary will be received at our hearing later in the month of March. With that said, Madam Clerk, may I get you to call a roll, please?
Mayor Rilling. Here. Mr. Abrams.
Here.
Mr. Camacho. Let's see. Mr. Constant.
Here.
Mr. Jelleret.
Here.
And Mr. Cassinis. Ms. Yang. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We currently have 5 commissioners, and you have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Again, given that this is a budget review, there's no requirement to make a motion to get into the materials. So, Tom, I know you sent out the file in advance, both as a PDF and an Excel spreadsheet. Where do we want to start this evening?
All right, we'll start with me sharing my screen, and then I'll just give a 30-second walkthrough for the department heads on what it all means. And let me know when you can see the screen and if it is reasonably legible.
We can see it. It could be a little bit bigger if you don't mind.
Better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So for the department heads that are on the line, you can see, you recognize your org and your object, and then we have the division. We're obviously covering economic and community development tonight, and then the various departments, Arts Commission, Chief, Code Enforcement, Planning and Zoning, so on and so forth. We've got a little bit of history here. We got 3 years of actuals in this tan shaded columns. And then over on the right-hand side, we have a 3-year average. That's the average of those 3 years of actuals. And then that average versus this year's request. And again, nothing needs to be done with this. This is simply for identifying trends and prompting any discussion or dialogue on any significant variances in either direction. So you're welcome to address those, but you don't have to. The key columns that we're focusing on tonight are right here, column AK. That's the current recommendation. That's if it's not tying to Munis by the penny, it will be in the next day or so. But that is those are the current numbers that we're looking at right now. And then what we want to focus on the percentages, the year-over-year percentages that we aim to keep at least this year in the 2.5% to 3% range. So in this particular case, Arts Commission is up significantly, but there is a compelling story for that, and Sabrina will come to that. So don't panic. So that is pretty much the story. Mr. Ireland had asked that he go first, so I'm going to scroll down to Code Enforcement, and I believe I saw Bill online. If you're ready to roll, Bill, you can unmute yourself and take it away. I saw you for a second, Bill. Where did you go? Oh, he's not. As a guest. I'm promoting him.
And Tom, while you promote him, my mistake, I didn't turn to the mayor. Mr. Mayor, are there any opening remarks you wanted to make this evening? I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
No, just pretty much the same as I said last night. I know that the department heads worked very hard, very diligently to come to the numbers that I requested that they come to. There may be a couple that are a little higher, others that are a little lower. But I think overall, they've done a remarkable job, especially during this very, very difficult time. I also want to thank the Board of Estimate and Taxation. I know that you look at this, you work very hard, you try to do everything you can to keep the taxes as low as possible while providing services that the city of that the residents expect. And it's always a challenge. It's not easy, but I think we've done a pretty good job. So again, thank you very much, and thank you, Chairman, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Tom, I'm sorry, back to you and Bill.
Yeah, so Bill, I see is online and unmuted and ready to roll, but Irene, you may want to note that Mr. Camacho joined a minute or so ago. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Another year is coming and it looks like it's going to be a successful one. As you may have noticed this past year and to date, our construction total is $567,000,000, 481,000 for work that we are now engaged with inspections, which last year's total was approximately 460 million. So we're over $100 million higher in what we are inspecting and taking place, which in the brunt of that are the two schools that are going up, the high school and the Sono school. Pretty much we are pro forma. We were projected to take in for this fiscal year 4.2 million. And as of the end of February, we're at 4.6 million. So we're going to probably top the $5 million mark by the time June rolls around. Everything is basically the same. I tried cutting a lot of items which I thought would benefit the city and where the department might not need. The big plus and everything I think Tom will show is the approval for another inspector, which I did conduct one set of interviews. And like I said last year, I'm not going to hire for the sake of hiring. And of the 5 people that I reviewed, I didn't hire any of them. So I'm planning on, again, maybe around July or the end of May into June. So by the July budget, we have somebody to fill the deputy spot who will be following me, or not following me, but under my guidance for training, and hopefully could accept my position at my time of retirement. So we have a very nice turnover when that happens with no hiccups. I don't know if anyone has any questions on here. Like I said, it's basically pro forma. We cut where we could cut. Tom, you probably could give a better explanation than I am.
Yeah, just again, like we saw last night, the significant increase on the salary side is that the hiring freeze comparing a half-year salary to a full-year salary, and really everything else, on the expenditure side, is down. So if you take out that salary part, Bill's expenses year over year are down $52,000. So that's a pretty good submission.
Bill, I know it's not an exact science, but as you bring a deputy on and have the ability then to process more work, right? You already talked about the fact that you're over on your revenue budget this year, looking closer to 5 million than the 4.2. How much more revenue are we likely to see if you bring a deputy on board?
Revenue is a tough revenue. Oh God, it's based on the construction industry. I mean, like I said, everything looks healthy. Another inspector coming on, and if he works out well, would probably cut into, not probably would help cut into the part-time account. Excuse me, which is quite high because of an overtime, which is quite high due to the fact that I'm filling that position with inspectors on the schools. And then once I retire, you see my salary go down. I mean, it's all relative what happens, but you have to have somebody ready to take the reins if I ever decide to retire. I'm not saying I'm anticipating it, but I want to stay as long as I can. But again, things happen and health or whatever, you never know. I'll be 77 this year, so the clock is ticking. But I feel great and I want to stay as long as I can, but it's for the good of the city. Every big city has one. So we were able to do without it for a few years. We had it up, Bradford Hanlon was our last deputy. And then we were able to go through because of the ups and downs with construction, but it's very strong right now. And the deputy is very important to take over in my position if I'm not here, if I get ill or retirement sets in. So
Yep.
that's the reason for it.
Okay. Thank you, and I understand the answer on the revenue side. Other questions for Bill from other members of the Board of Estimate and Tax?
Yeah, Bill, you're not going to retire, so don't even
Oh, I
think,
hope not.
don't even think about it.
Oh, I love this town. You know how I am, Mayor. I do what I do and to the best of my ability, and it's, I know everyone is satisfied with it, I think. So
Yes.
I'll just keep chugging.
We appreciate the fact that you do that, Bill. Thank you. All right. I guess then there's no other questions on code enforcement. So Tom, where are we going next?
I think why don't we just go in order? We'll start up at the top. This will be Sabrina in the Art Commission, and then she has Business Development and Tourism a little bit further down. But why don't we just start with this one? And then we'll bounce over to business, BDT. So go ahead, Sabrina.
Sure. I'm also happy to stay on and go in order if that's easier for the ease of the meeting. So the only large change you will see in the Arts Commission is the $20,000 new request for special events. They have never had this line item before. And I think it's really just because we have the Arts and Cultural Commission switch. And with that from the state, we are trying to do more arts and cultural type events. We had our first event, which the city sponsored through our Flexa funds and our arts and cultural, in our special events account. We had over 100 people at Space 67. And because of the success of that event, the Arts Commission wants to host more events on a monthly basis, not just networking events, but more educational, cultural, performing arts events, those types of things, as well as artists speak and utilizing local businesses, but also utilizing the art space. But we don't like asking everybody to use their spaces for free. While we do request that, we want to have the flexibility to provide things like snacks, food, pay artists if we need to do so. And with the experience from the first event, we spent around $1,000. So using that as a gauge for an event a month, that's where their request came from. Other than that, everything pretty much stayed flat or decreased a bit. Their normal business has not really changed much besides becoming more active in the community. So that's really the only large change here.
Questions from members of the BET? Okay, I understand it, Sabrina. No, okay, I think we're good with that one.
Okay, we'll go to the chief section next. Obviously, they have been without a chief for a few months, but they are working on getting a replacement there. I'll just talk a little bit about the salary line here.
Would you
And
mind
that's
referring to page numbers so I won't have to keep going back to my table of contents if that's okay?
So what are you looking at, Ed? The PDF of the
The
file?
operating, the binder, the operating budget, is that what we?
Oh, no, we're going by the spreadsheets.
Oh, the spreadsheet, okay, I apologize.
Yeah, which
I'll take that.
same, at least in my view, it's the same information in a better,
It's a lot easier, it's a lot more user
a
friendly.
better presented format, at least for our purpose this
Yep.
evening.
Okay.
So on the salary line item for the chief, Jess was at a relatively high step, but the way we budget for this is we pick the middle step of a salary grade. So thus the reduction for that. And obviously when the new person comes in, that will be a negotiated amount, and we will adjust accordingly. And then this next line item is a new one that the BET members saw last night, but I'm not sure the department heads and ECD are aware of this. So Jared, do you mind just a quick run through of what we're doing here?
Yes, it's a little bit different than what I explained last night for this division. When we talked about the adjustment, this reflects the 1% reduction overall for the division. last night, you'll probably remember that that 1% was allocated to each of the departments in the division. In this case, we're just, for now, that 1% is just allocated to the chief's office. And then as the year goes on, once the new chief comes in, and we get a better sense of where those reductions are going to be throughout the departments, the reductions will get allocated out to the departments. But same concept. It's a 1% reduction in salaries. It's just a matter of where it's being budgeted right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, between those two things, you know, that department is down 21%. And you can see here the change in expenses is negligible overall, so.
Yep.
We already covered, well, sorry, any questions
Yeah,
on
any questions on that department from anyone? I guess my only question, Tom, and it's, I don't know whether it's to you, to the mayor, to Jared. Where are we in the hiring process on a new chief, and when might we think that would get onboarded?
That's, we're moving forward rather closely. We anticipate hiring very soon.
Okay, so we will be looking at a full year run rate or close to it on salary.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, code enforcement we already covered, and after that is planning and zoning. What do we got for, they also had a hiring freeze impact last year, so that puts their salaries at up 9%. Overall 8%, and I believe Mr. Kleppen is out of the office this week, but we do have Alexis here to speak to this. You're on mute, Alexis.
All right, I think I'm unmuted. Thank you.
You are.
Yes, Steve is not here, but I will attempt to answer any questions. Mostly pro forma, a few little changes to some things. Highlight, let's see, our messenger service, which is item 4214. We've asked for an increase there. We now have 2 dedicated staff doing just zoning enforcement. And we have an active use of the constable messenger service to deliver citations. So that is what that increase is. Membership, item 5235. We've asked for an increase of $6,000. That's to cover the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative. The city of Norwalk had previously funded this collaborative watershed group for years, and then they did not have a staff person, and so the city stopped funding. But it is kind of an obligation that the city had pledged to support. And what it does is provide the city much more benefits than the $6,000 membership. And so that is that increase. I think that's, I think everything else is unchanged.
Okay, Alexis, just one question from me before I turn to the rest of my board members. The wages, salary, regular increase, first line item there, 5110. Approximately how many employees is that cover?
That is 13 employees.
Okay,
Fill up our roster to confirm. Yes, 13 employees. Most of them are relatively new hires, so still going through the steps.
okay. Thank you very much. Other questions for Alexis from anybody on the Board of Estimate Tax? Okay, seeing none, let's keep going.
All right, the next one's real easy. Conservation Commission has nothing. That used to be separate from planning and zoning, but you'll recall a year or 2 ago, we combined it with planning and zoning. I just have it on here to show a little bit of history. You won't see it again next year.
Okay.
So that brings us to TMP, Transportation, Mobility and Parking, and they are at 3.6 on their salaries. Overall, they are at 5.5%. And we have Jim Travers and Garrett Bilella here to talk to any of the variances and answer any questions. Go ahead, guys.
Hi, Commission. Jim Travers here, as Tom indicated, joined by Garrett Bilella. So we'll be happy to run through any questions for you. I can tell you, I think a couple of things in general. One of the things that came out is, I think a request from you to really look at the line items and appropriate where we're seeing the dollars. So we looked at the trends for where they are. We also looked at where we're going to anticipate some increases in expenses and in some line items. I would reference a couple of different points as we go through this. One of them being, for the last 2 years, we have been working on complete streets legislation that has passed, that is completed, so two things. One, we have training requirements to keep us updated, that you'll see increases in training opportunities. And then additionally, what we're seeing a larger increase is, it has always been our intent, and I know the intent of the Common Council, for us to move forward with a Vision Zero policy. We have successfully secured a Safe Streets for All grant that will be the baseline of the city's Vision Zero policy. So some of the increases that we see are the data that's going to be required. Vision Zero is more than just a statement. It's really, us doing a much better job managing the data, managing all the resources. And so we need to actually acquire some of that data. Some of the increases that you'll see, particularly in other professional services, is related to not only the walk bridge items that have been in the past, but also for increases to acquiring that data. I think some of the other items that you will note in the development, in the training education. Last year, I believe we told you that we were partnering with our IT department. We have created a fiber network around the city. We were able to acquire that through a traffic signal grant. We're using the dark fiber, or we've offered the dark fiber in there to IT, and in that return, helping reduce the overall expenses in providing fiber communications we're providing to the police department, to the fire department, to the library and other city businesses. So you'll see some of the training as education is required for us to just make sure that we maintain that network. And then additionally, what we saw further introduction this year of adaptive signal technology. And as we increase our level of technology, maintaining that support becomes the requirement that we're there. So most of the increases that you see are related to those items. I can give you specifics on any one of them that you want, but I think that's that kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Jim. I guess my question before I turn to my fellow board members, can you just provide a little bit more color and insight on the $15,000 year-to-year increase in other professional services? What's driving that?
So there's a couple of things there. We're seeing, so part of that service we use for additional support as we review the plans for the walk bridge. They have been presenting a number of management and protection of traffic plans to us. We look at outside services to help guide us through that. So but where you're seeing the increase come As I talked about before, Vision Zero really requires the city to take a much deeper dive into data, right? So we are looking to contract with data from this company that's called Streetlight. It's not necessarily a streetlight. It's streetlight data. They're able to assist us with average volumes of traffic on all of our roadway. We'll be able to keep and maintain a database of average speed on every roadway that we have in the city. So largely it is the acquisition of that data to allow us to do Vision Zero that you're seeing a larger percentage of that increase.
Questions from other members of the BET?
This is Troy. Jim, real quick on the line item of traffic signal supplies, 120,000. Give me a little color on that, please.
Sure. So, excuse me. So that one, is a few things. One, we have an aging system, right? And we have been working through grants to modernize our system. You'll see a number of projects that is currently underway for, roughly $9 million in grants that we have to do that. But we still can't close our eyes to the fact that we have older systems, 40, 50 years old, that just require additional services in order to maintain them in a state of good repair. They present a challenge to us to do it. But it's also, as we look at that, we're introducing a couple of different new technologies. We piloted with the introduction to the mall, adaptive signal technology on West Avenue at the mall. And it's been proven to be fairly successful. But what we've done through this year is we've introduced adaptive signal technology to the entirety of West Avenue, that we've just completed that. And then we're going to a next phase where we're wrapping the corner, going up in Van Zant and coming down to Connecticut Avenue, introducing that adaptive signal technology that comes with a little bit more complexity of the cost of technology and what we need to do to maintain it. Getting new signal timings and adjusting them as the case may be. But in large part, it's a state of good repair for the 60 traffic signals that we have that are aging.
I guess a question for Tom or Jared could this be considered a capital project type thing for them?
These are typically not more capital projects because there are things such as brackets that erode over time. We have other items, components in there. The traffic signal lights that go out, they don't have a long-term capital expense. These are more not replacing the entire system, but just components of it. We constantly are reviewing the brackets because they are constantly, with the ones that are on span wire, they're constantly moving. We want to make sure that at some point in time they don't break and fall down. So they're more of an item that we replace as the system gets older. They're heavier. I think when we install newer lights, we have it's a reduced weight. So it's the older ones that just require us to do more regular maintenance that I think would fall outside the guise of traditional capital investment.
Yeah, and Troy, there is an item in Jim's capital budget for signal replacement, which would cover those things that are more truly, capital expenditures.
But this wouldn't be these are more repair one-off items.
Right.
Yeah. Generally, when you hear the terms maintenance and repair, like Jim was just stating, that generally guides towards the operating side.
Okay. And the other question about the bridge, anytime I hear the lock bridge, are we getting reimbursements from the state on that for things like you mentioned for the other personal services line?
So there's not a reimbursement to the state. This is just ours. It's more of an assurance that that the impact to residents is negligible. So it's just added assistance that we have. They've been fairly great with, we've gotten them to take on a new project around Cemetery Circle, which will be starting this year. That has been an addition of about $3.5 million worth of a project that we were able to identify for them, that is added to it as a later date. But assistance for us to double check their work doesn't really, they don't have that as a requirement to do with their funding to us.
And Tom, you said this is one of those salary things. What would it be without the adjustments? It's 5.53. Without those adjustments on the salary, would it be within our guidelines there?
Yeah, I don't have the exact number, but I would venture to say they would be.
Yeah, in addition, Troy, there was a position that was added mid-year to their budget. If you remember that the BET and Common Council approved that addition, it was a ARPA funded position that got added midway through this year. It's a project manager position, so it wasn't budgeted for this year, and is a new headcount for next year, but has already been approved.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything else for Jim and TMP? Jim, thank you very much. Appreciate the time this evening.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, and now back to Sabrina with Business Development and Tourism. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Hello again. So you won't see any real major changes. Everything is pretty much just moving money in a small amounts to fit kind of what the expenditures were in the past. You'll see the large kind of line items here are really the advertising account, which goes directly to advertising the city, and the other professional services account, which is to our marketing firm that we have, and that's in a contractual amount that we have going forward. But other than that, pretty much everything stayed the same. The small increases that you'll see are really just because we are fully staffed with 2 individuals. So there's 3 folks on our team now. So small increases in things like phone and, memberships and things like that you might see. But other than that, it's pretty flat.
Sabrina, as a marketing exec, you touched a nerve for me on the agency fees and contractually committed. Is that purely for staffing? Is that inclusive of creative development costs, media planning costs? If you look at it against your actual media budget, it runs pretty heavy on a percentage basis. So really, can you give me a little bit more color as to what's in the agency fees?
Sure. So it's a multitude of things. So originally it was for website creation and development for Visit Norwalk and Norwalk for Business, as well as the social media management of those accounts on both Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. They're still obviously managing all of those things and making changes to those things as we need. Content creation is included in that contract, as well as graphic creation, any post creation that we need. They are developing advertisements for us as well as we need them, including video footage. They're also creating the advertising plans for us, as well as doing the placements for us. So it's kind of all inclusive of everything that you can think of that we're doing from a marketing perspective, minus the influencer-esque posts that we do that with staff internally.
Okay, thank you very much. That helps.
Of course.
Other questions from the members of the BET? All right, seeing none, let's keep moving.
All right, our last section for the night is the Historical Commission. No salaries here, so nothing to discuss on the headcount front. Their total is recommendation at 380, which comes out to 18.2%. Couple of new items on here or significantly increased. We have David Westmoreland on the line to address these. Any questions that you might have? Go ahead, David.
Yes, good evening. So I can go through most of the changes. I think everyone knows the Historical Commission, we manage 10 city-owned historic buildings, and 4 city-owned historic cemeteries, along with the other things that Historical Commissions does. And most of those things has to do with the properties. We have public-private partnerships with organizations like the Lockwood Matthews Mansion, the Norwalk Historical Society, Center for Contemporary Printmaking, and the Fairfield County Cultural Alliance, that we have various leasing and outsourcing arrangements to operate those buildings on behalf of the city. And the private nonprofits raise money in addition to the monies that the city has and provides to help sustain these buildings and keep them open to the public. The increases we have this year, the other professional services and buildings lines went up a bit. Mainly, Jarrett had asked us to take $25,000 from the capital budget that we were spending on, or we were requesting and have been getting pretty much every year in the capital budget for maintaining the cemeteries, doing maintenance, repairs of tombstones and other things that break in cemeteries. And then we spend about $10,000 a year on conserving and improving the city's collection of historical objects. And he asked us to move those over to the operating budget because it was more appropriate for it to be there than in capital. And we put most of that money in $15,000 in professional services, an increase of $3,100 in buildings. The next 3 line items that increased: plumbing, other repairs, other contractual services. Is there anyone from facilities on? Because those are their numbers that they had requested. I do know that they're planning on, there's a lot of HVAC and plumbing repairs to do at the museum building and at the ground floor of the health department where we have the city's collections stored. And I'm assuming that's what's driving those, but we'll have to get that information from Neil Rennie or Alan Lowe. We had requested a $20,000 increase in the operating grants that we give to the Historical Society to operate Mill Hill and the museum over at City Hall. The $10,000 for the Historical Society. The Historical Society last year hired a full-time curator to deal with the city's collection because it was just too much and we weren't making enough progress. And they have been funding the lion's share of that cost. So we're looking for the city to help pay for that salary for the next several years. We probably have about 3 more years of work to finish cataloging, conserving, and the collection and getting rid of stuff we don't need. The other $10,000 was for the Lockwood Matthews Mansion. We're anticipating increased utilities cost and other costs we don't know about regarding the because of all the new mechanical systems we've installed with the renovation of the mansion. And we're planning on using this year as a test to figure out what the operating costs are actually going to be for the mansion with all the new systems. But we're not trying to really put much money in there for that. We're working with facilities to see what that's going to turn out to be. And facilities is also in the process of taking over the management of the building, which also might drive additional headcount, not this year, but possibly in the next fiscal year, 27. So we're working together on that. And I think that pretty much covers most everything. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for David?
A quick question for David. This is Troy.
Hey, Troy.
Just give us the timing on the completion of the Lockwood Matthews Mansion. I'm just curious of timing.
We are right now. They are projecting that we'll be able to start moving back in April. So we're probably looking to open sometime between very late May, more likely June or July to be completely open again. But they still have a couple more months of work to do.
And now you have the full HVAC for that main level and
It's for the entire
basement.
building, and we don't know what the run rate's going to be. And unfortunately, we're not going to have a winter heating season behind us before we start fiscal year 27 budget. But we'll at least know what we'll have some experience with it. I think we'll be able to get our arms around it better. We really just have no clue right now. So it's all so different than what we had.
Great. Good luck. Thanks.
Thanks. You'll hear from us if we're not lucky.
I'm sure.
Any other questions for David? All right. Seeing none, I don't think we have any open items for this evening, Tom.
Yeah, none last night either, so none yet. Tomorrow night is community services, including the library and operations and public works and building management. So we can ask about these 3 line items in historical commission, and finally recreation and parks.
Okay.
And Tom, you're going to send us, you didn't send us the grid yet for tomorrow yet, right?
I'll be doing that shortly after this call. It'll be out.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Okay, I'll look for
yeah.
that. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else before we close the meeting this evening? To the department heads, per the mayor's opening remarks, on behalf of the BET, want to thank you for your diligence as you work through this. Really appreciate it. To my fellow BET members, appreciate you working through this. Mr. Mayor, before I move to adjourn, any last comments from you?
No, thank you. Tonight went really, really smooth, and appreciate all the work that everybody's doing.
All right. With that, may I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved, Troy.
Thank you, Troy, at 7:14 p.m., Tom.
I will send that email to Irene right now so I don't forget.
Thank you all. We'll speak again tomorrow evening.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.